What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Servo Drafts episode number 3, where me and Nick are drafting fun things, sports things, non-sports things, because, we're all quarantining, and now is the time to just, make up something fun that we care about, right, Nick? Because, there's no live sports, but we still want to talk about sports, and this is just a fun thing to kind of reminisce a little, but also, think of it seriously and just do a fun draft because nothing's better in sports than drafting, right?
That's right. Again, my days are a lot less cheerful without sports, so this is something
Right
I look
here,
forward
right here.
to every week. We do have the NFL draft coming up, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Um, but this is something that it's really fun. I'm glad we keep on rolling with it.
Yeah, and this is our own kind of virtual draft, right?
Yeah, this is our own. Listen, we're not going to have the same technical difficulties.
No.
I really hope that something happens, like the Cowboys can't submit their pick or something. That
Yeah.
would be hilarious. Just somehow zoom in on Jerry Jones fiddling with his computer or something um, so let's hope that something interesting happens tomorrow.
Yeah, we hopefully we don't have those problems with these because it's just we're saying them out loud. We don't have to enter them in manually or anything. So today we are doing we've done baseball and MLB, we've done NBA, and now we're doing college basketball, which I think for us too is definitely something that's in our wheelhouse. Being huge college basketball fans. Nick, you went to Villanova, and I went to Maryland, so two bigger basketball schools for sure. So, yeah, V's up, right?
These are always up.
So we are doing an 8-round college basketball draft, which, I think is going to be fun. And we're doing 5 starters, kind of like if you watched our NBA draft, it's 5 starters and then 3 bench guys. And the starters have to be 2 guards at least, 2 forwards at least, and then another one that's kind of either way, guard/forward, and then the 3 bench, whatever direction you want to go in. And yeah, we're gonna go, snake style back and forth for the most part. But the first pick, we did a heads or tails coin flip. Tails never fails. Nick, you won. You have the first pick, you said, and then I'll do 2, 3, and then back and forth from there. So, without further ado, who's gonna be the first guy off the board?
Yeah. This was a very difficult choice for a couple of reasons. There's a bunch of Villanova players that are very deserving to be up here in the top.
By the way,
Uh,
real quick stipulation: you can't pick all Villanova players.
I mean, Team of the Decade 2018 team,
Hey,
so
I
they should
can't
all
argue it.
technically
Can't
be on
argue it.
here. But no, there'll be some other guys on here. Um, I think from a pure basketball point, it was very close for me between Anthony Davis and Zion. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm actually going to take Anthony Davis as my first overall pick.
Wow.
His dominance, I think, in terms of they won a national championship, that was sort of my big deciding factor was, again, actually winning a championship um, and really dominating on both ends of the floor. So I want to stack up on some big guys first before getting into the guards.
Yeah, that's a good pick, and I think getting the big guys first is definitely going to be a priority for us because I feel like college basketball over the last few years or whatever has been, there's a lot of good point guards, good shooting guards that carry teams, but the big men are just kind of there's only a few like top tier guys. So yeah, I would Anthony Davis is definitely at the top of my list. Number 2, I'm going Zion. He's last year, he's one and done, obviously, but the year he had with Duke was just so dominating. You know, he got hurt, missed a few games there, but I'm glad he came back. I think a lot of people thought he would just sit out the rest of the season, but he didn't even have to come back. He was already made the number 1 pick, but he came back and Duke kind of made a little run in the tournament. But yeah, Zion, I mean, his dunks, his highlight reel dunks, if you haven't seen him, just go Google search that real quick. Just
I
one
mean,
more,
if you don't know who Zion Williamson is,
right?
why are you watching this video? So just gonna say
uh,
that.
yeah, just a dominating force. And in college, by the way, he's a little undersized, I guess, for the NBA, maybe for the position he's playing, but in college, you're just dominating everyone. So for a college draft, for sure.
Yeah,
So
definitely the most exciting recent college basketball
yeah,
season. He certainly was the most exciting player in the last 10 years. I think there's no doubt about that. So
I mean, he was,
I
yeah,
think,
it was like him and LeBron have been like the most exciting, like most hyped guys in college, or
yeah,
not even, yeah, LeBron didn't go to college, but the most hyped guys, like, coming out of high school.
yeah,
And yeah, and Zion probably would have been the number one pick if high schoolers could come out. So
yep. I mean, his block, I think it was against Virginia,
yeah, I
where
remember
he
that
literally jumped,
five
like
feet in
he
the
was
air.
closing someone out, and literally I've never seen a human being jump that high in my life. And him blocking a shot where he was no business even being in the vicinity of was just like, this guy is just
Yeah.
an incredible freak athlete. So yeah, can't go wrong there.
Yeah, and his in-game dunks were just like stuff of legend. So second pick for me here, number 3 overall. I'm going guard here, because there's one I definitely want, and that's Kemba Walker. He, the run he helped UConn make, back in the beginning of this past decade, where they were, a lower seed. They made the Big East tournament run, won that, and then they were a lower seed in the NCAA tournament, and he was just like one of those guys that was hot. No one was going to stop him, and they made a run all the way to the title. I mean, just one of the most exciting, tournament runs, I think, from like a team that no one picked to win it all. I don't think that year. And even though that, it's UConn, it's like a kind of a powerhouse school from the Big East and all that back then. Just, no one thought that they could do that. And his signature moment in college was definitely his step back on Pittsburgh in the Big East tournament, where Madison Square Garden, and he just completely broke the ankles of some no-name big that I don't even know on Pittsburgh that year. And yeah, just it was a game winner shot in the Big East tournament, and that was like that. If he doesn't hit that, maybe they don't win the title. So yeah, going Kemba here to run my point.
Yeah. Just reminds me of the old Big East days. He is just an awesome, awesome point guard. I mean, in the pros and in college, I mean, like I have fond memories of just watching him play in the Big East. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a great pick. For my fourth, I'm going homegrown Nova, um, and that's point guard Jalen Brunson. Um, Again, two-time national championship player for this decade. A Wooden Award. I think Villanova was the team of this decade. And
yeah,
I'm not
they
just
were.
saying as a homerism, but
Oh,
like
they
they were, I
were.
think
I'll admit it. Yep.
yeah, I mean, they were. Um, and he was a large part of those teams, and just for 3 straight years, just was the most consistent, durable, dependable point guard, like a perfect college point guard. Um, and, top that off with like being a winner and a champion. Easy
Yeah.
pick to be my point guard.
It's a great pick. I would have. It was either him or Kemba at the top of the point guards for me, and yeah, he was there. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go maybe one that people kind of forget about, and that's Doug McDermott from Creighton.
Mm,
He was so good in college. Just like player of the year that year, I think, and a lot of the awards went to him. Um, and Creighton was never, I think before he emerged, Creighton was never a huge basketball school. And it was basically him, they were a mid-major in the Missouri Valley, I'm pretty sure. And then after that, they became, a Big East team, realignment and all that. But it was like, if Doug McDermott didn't happen for them being like a dominant college player, then who knows? And, McDermott was like, he's a typical guy that was just, he was going to get almost every shot on that team, from especially these small schools. But like if he was anywhere else, he would still be that guy. Was draining from three. He's kind of like a bigger forward type, I think. So he was a stretch 3 or 4, I guess, but also just was draining from three. And yeah, I mean he was a national player of the year his sophomore year, and then a couple more years. So yeah, he was dynamite. So definitely going Doug McDermott here.
Yeah. I both love and hate Doug. He torched Villanova when they first joined the Big East Conference.
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
So did they join like halfway through his career, I guess?
Yeah, I think they joined in 2013 or 14.
Okay.
I think it might have been my junior year of college. So, I mean, Creighton was, yeah, they were the best team in the Big East that year.
Yeah.
And he was unstoppable, like literally unstoppable. I think he was the only or one of the only 3-time All-American selections ever, and I think maybe definitely of this decade. So, yeah, I mean he's a beast.
Yeah.
Cool. This is where it starts to get muddled. I think that
I
you can go a
agree.
ton of different directions here. I'm going to build my team to be balanced, and I think that means I'm taking Buddy Hield from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
2017 was, I should say 2016 was his year. Um, he was just dropping like 35 plus on like everyone in the Big 12. Um, Best shooter, I think, in college basketball, maybe since Steph Curry. And yeah, he again had that one really magical year. Was very good other years, but like it really all came together his senior year and National Player of the Year. And a Final Four run for Oklahoma. That team was really, really good. Just got trounced by Nova when it really matters most, though.
I remember watching that game, and it was a blowout early. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of when your team is in that position to blow people out, then it's like the best kind of game to watch. So yeah, it was a magical time to beat Buddy, especially after Oklahoma had torched Nova earlier in the year.
And you were at that game, right?
Yeah, I was in Houston for it.
Yeah. Um,
Best 4 days of my life.
I imagine, man. Yeah, Buddy though was so fun to watch, and another guy kind of like McDermott, who just like when he got hot from three, he was one of the most fun guys to watch. Just draining, and yeah, like Oklahoma. I think in our lifetime, like Oklahoma's never been a huge, basketball school, and that year, like they were beating Kansas, they were beating, West Virginia, all these schools in the Big 12, and yeah, they made a run to the Final Four, which is wild to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they Oklahoma basketball. They've had some great players though, like
They always
Blake
have random
Griffin,
one-off guys.
Buddy Hield, Trey Young. It's like
Yeah,
it doesn't really make sense, but I mean they're always consistently getting like really good guys.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess to stay on that kind of that 3-point, player of the year candidate guys that we've been talking about the last couple picks. My next pick's gonna be Jimmer Fredette. Jimmer.
Jimmer.
Jimmer. So I mean BYU player, definitely a smaller school. But if anybody who's watched college basketball, in this past decade, about Jimmer. Just kind of like I get kind of like followed the career of Steph Curry in college. Small
Yeah.
school guy that just could get hot from three and was just lighting it up. And he was a player of the year in the 2010-2011 season, averaged almost 29 points a game. And he's a 4-year player at BYU, but just like a high volume dude that was just so fun to watch. His tournament teams, never went too far. They made a couple small runs in the tournament, but he was just one of those guys that, there's a thing called Jimmer range nowadays where people shoot 35 feet out, and that's why.
Yeah, he was, I guess, before because this was before like Steph Curry was like lighting it up. in the
Yeah.
pros with like the 3 point. I mean, it was really him who like was the best shooter, like was the shooter um,
Yeah.
that like brought all of college basketball kind of um, at a standstill to watch him. So I do remember when that was going on. It was really exciting. The only knock on Jimmer was never made it that far in like the postseason or like NCAA tournament, but like wasn't
Yeah.
his fault. He was just on fire
I mean,
from
those
like all
BYU
types of
teams, it was
spots.
basically him and a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's got to be fun though, just to be like, I'm the only guy that I like feel like can just drain this, and I'm gonna have to shoot like 25 times a night. I don't care.
Yeah. By the way,
So
quick note, last time I checked, which was sometime this basketball season, I think Jimmer was just like lighting it up for I think in China, whatever team he's on. He's like literally like the MVP of the China league. But he could
I mean,
never he flamed out of the NBA.
I still don't like understand that. Like, how was like he not? Maybe he's so bad on defense that they can't like play him, but like his shooting was like definitely good enough. I don't understand that, but like
I don't either,
I don't
to
know
be
why he never
honest.
stuck. Like,
There's a lot of guys like that where I'm like, how does this guy not have an NBA job? Like, dude, but real quick tangent. Two guys that I was looking at like NBA mock drafts the other day, and like two guys that are like not as high as you would think. And you know them from the Big East, Marcus Howard and Miles Powell. You know, two guys that just they drain. They're just really good offensive players. They can't play defense really, but offensively, they're like
yeah,
two of the best college basketball players of this last season, and they're like going to be second round picks and maybe not even make an NBA roster.
yeah. Well, look at who's the guy from Purdue last Carson Edwards who like lit it up.
Another
He
guy,
reminds
yeah,
me of he reminds me of Marcus Howard. Like small guy, lights out shooter. He was drafted in the late second round by the Celtics. I
yeah.
don't think he really played that much this year.
No, yeah, he was like killing it in the G League, but like barely
Killing the G
played.
League. The problem is it's defense. Like I really think
Yeah,
NBA athleticism is like completely different from college. Where like I just don't think they can like hang on the court with people like on that end. Um, like you've got to be like Isaiah Thomas, whatever, 2016 or whatever that year was, when you just are scoring so much that doesn't matter. But um,
or like Steph Curry, where you're just so good
yeah,
offensively that your defense doesn't even matter.
but like at least yeah, I guess like Steph Curry is at least like 6'3", you know, like can play like good enough defense. Like Marcus Howard's like 5'11", like that's like
Yeah,
really small. Um,
and
right, I don't even think
Miles
he's like a,
Powell's pretty small too.
yeah, that's the thing. They're just undersized, but like I think if I'm a smart team, I take them late second round, or they definitely will get a roster spot,
Yeah,
like to at least try out and make the team, like a G League spot or summer league, whatever roster, whatever that it's called. Um, because these guys can shoot and play offense so well that you know, if I'm like the Knicks, it's like why am I not like rolling the dice and like trying to get someone that can
right.
score? So
Or like like the Hornets or like some of these teams that just like if you have a
well,
guy that can like the Warriors became like fun to watch because like even when they were not that great yet because they had Curry who was just lighting it up.
yeah,
And then they started to get pieces around him and all that and build a team. But
the
like,
horn,
like if a team like, like the Hornets or like, the Knicks, if they had someone like Carson Edwards this season, like he'd probably be playing a lot more and being able to shoot more and stuff like that. But he goes to the Celtics where they're a loaded team, and he's
yeah,
definitely not getting playing time there.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned the Hornets. The Hornets are actually like they're like a college basketball, like if you think about it, they draft all of their players from Duke, UNC, Kansas. Like literally if you run through their top picks, it's like, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, Malik Monk, like Devontae Graham, like
Yeah, were you good in
Frank
college?
Kaminsky's on the team. Kemba Walker was on the team. It's like every college like legend from like a major school goes there. That's who they draft. They don't draft anyone else. Um, so
And I guess
I
it
think like a
doesn't
lot of
work.
these guys on this list will have played for the Hornets. Feels like.
Probably.
Um, okay, we got sidetracked there for a sec. I
That's
gotta
all right. Whatever.
take I gotta take a big man, and I'm going with Frank the Tank Kaminsky.
Hey,
um,
speak of the devil.
Another Hornet,
Another Hornet.
buzz up, baby. Um, so they made the Final Four in 2014 and 2015. Never won the title, but senior year, 18.8 points, 8.2 rebounds, 1.5 blocks. Um, really was like a typical like college basketball guy, like just not really that athletic, but like just kind of knows where to be and like how to manipulate the defense and like
Yeah.
good enough shooter obviously to like make things happen, but it helps when you're 7 feet and like no one else is like 7 feet in college. Um, but I mean, he for 2 years there, and it feels like Wisconsin just was always in the mix this decade for you know the Big Ten title and deep NCAA tournament runs. So yeah, he's going to be my forward as well.
Yeah, I mean that's Frank the Tank, man. He was him and yeah, was it Sam Decker
Yep.
at Wisconsin? That like those two dudes just very very like unassuming, I guess, of how good they could be, but that Wisconsin team just made a run. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, I mean they both played the NBA. I mean
Yeah,
they're very talented, and they were just like well coached. Had a lot of like gritty players, so they're kind
yeah,
of like Villanova, the Big Ten. I feel like they're like not like getting the flashiest guys, but like they all play good team basketball and end up winning and are in the mix like every year, even when they're like they shouldn't be. So
yeah. This past year, Wisconsin, like they weren't that great in the beginning of the year, and then they kind of made a run in the Big Ten. They play teams well, and then they ended up finishing tied for first with the for a Big Ten championship with Michigan State and Maryland. And like I remember thinking back, as it was happening and they were going on a run, I'm like, how is this team doing this? But it's like Wisconsin. They just, and it's a different coach now, but I feel like they just figure it out with like guys that are just role players that, you know, who knows? I mean, maybe they get a couple future NBA players like that old team, but I don't think that was the case this past year.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a good point.
so we are what in the fifth round, right?
Yeah.
And my team so far, just to get everyone up to date, Zion, Kemba Walker, Doug McDermott, and Jimmer Fredette. I need another big here for sure. And I hate this guy a lot now, but in college he was dominant, and that's Jahlil Okafor.
Mm.
He and you know this too, Nick. He just flamed out with the Sixers. I mean, he was just such a bust. But in college at Duke, in his one and done year, he was like the best player in the league, in the country. And I think Duke won a national title that year. He was,
Yeah.
that team was loaded, and he was like the main reason for it. The whole thing going around about it was like massive hand size, where he could just palm a basketball. It looked like a baseball in his hands, but it was like legit watching him. In the post, and on defense, he was just really dominant. And that Duke team was loaded, which probably helped him, and probably why people overvalued him in the draft, I guess. But yeah, another guy. I mean, I feel like this is starting to become a trend with all our picks. Guys that haven't had good NBA careers yet, but they were really good in college.
Yeah, I mean, this draft is college basketball production alone, so
Yeah, except
that's
I guess
totally
Anthony
fine.
Davis is probably the best one so far, right? And I mean, he
Yeah, I
was
mean Kemba too, really
Kemba.
good.
Yeah, Kemba's legit.
Um,
Yeah,
I think for these guys, like for me, I waited like winning a little bit more and like staying a little bit longer. Um,
yeah,
Even though Anthony Davis was a one and done, he was my first pick, but they still won a national championship. Like, I think everyone on my team has made the Final Four. I mean, and won like Big Ten and Big 12 championships. So, when you think when you're putting this together, it's like you just gotta find what matters most to you. I mean,
yeah,
Jahlil Okafor was in his one season really, really dominant, and he kind of couldn't be stopped in the post, and that translates poorly to the NBA. But like when you're bigger and stronger than everyone in college, like I mean, he could have been a college legend, but you know, chose
Yeah.
to go to the NBA.
Imagine
Didn't
if
work
these
out.
guys stay more than 1 year, right?
Well, I mean, imagine Anthony Davis and like Carl Anthony Towns, like how good they were in the NBA. Like, imagine them in college. It's like it'd be unfair. Like, it
Dude,
literally would be like unfair.
and real quick point on those two guys. You've probably heard this too, but the thing with those guys is that like now in the NBA, they're good 3-point shooters, right? And but in college they weren't, but that's not because they didn't have the talent. It was because of the way John Calipari ran his team and like didn't want his big shooting, 3-pointers that was left to the wing guys and the guards. But he wanted his bigs in the post, being more shot blockers and post guys, which was like Anthony Davis and Towns were both dominant, defensive and offensive, but they never stepped outside to shoot threes a lot. And I've like read interviews and stuff with both those guys, Towns and Davis, and they always said how like Colorado Party like told us not to shoot threes. I mean, which is like you can look at it two ways. Like one, it may have hindered their growth, I guess, or like but it's hard to say that because they're both like top guys in the NBA now. But the other part of it is like it. I mean, overall, it helped the team winning because Anthony Davis, that team was stacked, and it was probably a good idea for him to just be in the post. And Towns' team too made a run, but I mean, if you imagine if those guys were shooting threes and like complete guys back then, which they are now in the NBA. I mean, imagine that one too.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know why you wouldn't.
I mean,
I think
it's Calipari just trying to like micromanage his whole team.
yeah, I think there was a story that Zach Lowe put out about Bam Adebayo, also Kentucky.
Yeah, another guy.
Same
Yeah,
sort of thing. They just like he wouldn't let him shoot. It's like
yep. Which
just
like, and I hear that, and I'm like, I look at like this past year, like Kentucky, like Nick Richards, and like who knows, like maybe he's a good 3-point shooter, but no one knows.
it's almost like you've got to just like gamble if you're like an NBA coach and be like, okay, like you can probably shoot, but don't know. There's no tape on it. But maybe Calipari is teaching them toughness because I think if you look at like Bam and Anthony Davis, like I mean those guys are really good, tough rebounders and defenders. Karl Anthony Towns not so much, but um, maybe there is something to just like focusing on the fundamentals of like rebounding and defense. Like
Yeah,
I mean, there's some validity to that, but like to not let your best players shoot, like, hey, guess to each his own.
right. I mean, if the team's winning, then not much we could say about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't coached a basketball team, so probably should.
Oh, you
Well, their
haven't? I have,
criticism.
dude. I have.
Oh yeah, the Motown Rec League All Stars,
Right? Yeah. Player coach.
player coach / superstar. Um, okay,
All right.
my final pick. At
For
this point I'm
starters, right?
starter.
Yeah.
This one was I don't know. I don't feel good about it, and I think you're like NBA. What these guys do in the NBA sort of clouds your judgment, but I'm gonna try to like cut through that, and I'm gonna pick Evan Turner, who's like a forward / guard, literally the perfect hybrid for my final spot here. Was a Naismith Award winner, Wooden Award winner, consensus All American. His junior year at Ohio State, 20 points a game, 9.2 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, those are great numbers, and really was sort of that do it all kind of guy.
Yeah.
Perfect college player, but like here's the thing, he was just massive and like athletic, and when you're like very athletic and tall, like you're going to be really good in college. But when everyone in the NBA is really big and tall, and athletic, it's a different story. But he's going to make it here, even though Ohio State, I don't think they might have made the Final Four, but I'm not sure. Um, they did make and win some Big Ten tournaments while his time there.
Yeah, he was definitely a guy that was, fun to watch too, for sure. And, he had like one, he was rookie of the year with the Sixers, right? His first season. And but just like kind of another guy just kind of flamed out. I mean, he's still playing the NBA. Got a
I
long
would say he
career.
flamed out. I feel like he just never. I mean, he shouldn't have been the second pick. He just wasn't ever like
Yeah,
a super duper star. But I mean, he's a solid role player in the NBA. I mean, he just can't really shoot. He can't shoot threes, and it's like in this day and age, if you can't really shoot that well, it's like tough to really um, be a really impactful player.
yeah. All right. Well, my next pick, I'm gonna go. So this is my first bench guy. Um, I'm gonna go Trey Burke from Michigan. He was in 2013. He was the National Player of the Year. First team All American. Um, you know, I think that team, that Michigan team, also they made a run to the national championship game, and he was a big part of that. They had a bunch of a few pros on that team, but he was like the guy, running the point. He had that, if you ever want to look it up, but he had that clutch shot, I think in the Final Four, or maybe I think it was the Final Four, to basically send them to the national championship. That he was, made a deep 3-pointer to send the game in their favor. But I mean, he was just really fun to watch, and just one of those point guards that was like, clearly one of the best players on the floor every time he stepped on there. Another guy, I guess, in the NBA, he hasn't lived up to. He was a top 10 pick in the NBA draft in 2013. But he's bounced around a few teams here and there. But in college, he was just very dominant. And I'll have him run my second team point guard.
Yeah, that one tournament run was
That
just
was fun
him
to
going
watch.
off. Yeah, like those. That's what's so fun about the NCAA tournament. It's just like you have individual players who just are red hot, and it's fun to watch them just like tear it up. Yeah, another guy who didn't really make it in the NBA. I mean, I think he's been around for 6, 7 years. I know he's on the Sixers this past year. I
Yeah.
think they waived him recently though. Um, he's a good shooter. It's just I think again really small. Defensively, just it's gonna always be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving along, my first bench pick.
Go through your
Here's a
starters
guy.
real quick.
Oh yeah, starters. So I've got Anthony Davis and Frank Kaminsky in my front court. I've got Evan Turner as like a hybrid forward slash guard. And then my backcourt is Jalen Brunson and Buddy Hield. So some pretty good shooting, definitely good passing. Um, yeah, I think we'll be able to roll with anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Although I think who would guard Zion? Um, Probably Evan Turner. They're like the same height, so
I think, I mean, Anthony Davis is just the bigger. They probably send multiple dudes at him, between Turner and Anthony Davis. I think you guys would run a zone. How about that?
yeah. Frank the Tank, just long limbs, just
Dude, Anthony Davis and
deflecting.
Frank in the paint would be tough to
Yeah,
score
be
on.
tough to score. Be very tough. Um, I'm actually going to add
It's all right.
another.
I'll just have Jimmer shoot from like 30 feet.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun, and Kemba too. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be
Kemba.
fun. It would be really fun to see Jalen versus Kemba. Like, I would love to see that, like MSG showdown. Like,
Yeah,
which guy could ball out? Be really fun.
it would.
Um, my bench guy, I'm adding another like Swiss Army type player, and that's Draymond Green. Um, Went
Good
to a
pick.
couple Final Fours at Michigan State. Was eventually an All American. And Big Ten Player of the Year in his own right. And again, just another defensive guy, all around winner, and that's carried around to the NBA. So again, just part of those great Michigan State teams of this decade that just always seem to be we're making a deep run in March Madness.
Yeah, that's a great pick because he was a really good college player. People probably forget that, but yeah, he was really good, and he's a guy. I mean, he could guard Zion. How about that?
He definitely could guard Zion. So that's my Zion stopper right there.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna go. I got a couple of ways I could go with this. I'm gonna go guard, and we mentioned this guy earlier, Trae Young, a recent guy.
Oh,
He He was he had one season. He was one and done in college, but was just like really good that one season. He was first team All Big 12, consensus first team All American. Was definitely a Player of the Year candidate. Didn't win the award, but Player of the Year candidate. And he was his points per game average, and assists per game average led the whole college basketball for that season, which is tough to do from like a power program because the scoring is a little more spread out. And it's usually the top scorers are guys from mid majors. That's just them and everyone else. But Trey Young was that dude at Oklahoma. You know, he was the guy, kind of like took after Steph Curry and Jimmer and these guys that could shoot deep because he was just launching them. Where I think people thought like this won't work in the NBA, and this past year or two, that we've seen it work, and he's making it work at the next level. You don't think so?
Offensively, yes, but the Hawks are still
Well, yeah. I mean,
really bad.
that's what I'm saying. Like he's kind of like a Curry. Like his offense is really good. Defense is questionable. So you need a defensive around him. But
Yeah.
for like a scoring point guard,
Oh yeah.
he was one of the best in college.
Yeah. I mean, he's still making plays like passing, shooting. He was incredible. I just think he's a really bad defender.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother. We could get off a Trey Young tangent, but I actually like what the Hawks are doing overall. Not that matters, but
They got a
they
bunch of
need like a
Terps.
yeah. They got a bunch of Terps. Um, they got White Lightning. So, wait, is Kevin Herter from Maryland?
Yeah.
He is. Okay, that's right.
They got hurt. They got Bruno Fernando, and Alex Len. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Alex Len. Yikes. Okay.
Hey, he's still in the NBA, man.
He's still kicking.
The thing with Alex Len, he's a 7 foot, dude. So he's gonna be in the league.
Yeah, he's just like backup center for life.
Yeah.
So
It's like it's the same reason why Boban is still in the league. He's just a tall center that can play defense.
Boban's got some skill, yo. Boban's actually got vision. He can pass. He's
a little
obviously
bit,
good
yeah.
at defense.
He's very awkward though.
Yeah, that's true. But he's a massive human being. Okay, so my next pick, this is a guy I always admired, and he was a very Villanova-like player, and I like wish he was somehow on my team. That's Malcolm Brogdon, two-time All-American, ACC Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. He was the guy who kickstarted Virginia's like being a top-notch ACC program. He was kind of their first great player, 4-year guy. Virginia actually beat Villanova, I believe, at home, and he just like couldn't. He just was a perfect college player and like guard. He just knew exactly like where to be, what to do on defense and offense, and I want him on my squad.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, when you're talking about like Virginia, defensive-minded players, like he's that guy for sure. And honestly, he's having a better NBA career than I thought he would. I thought he was just going to be, I didn't know how good he was going to be like offensively to be sticking around, but he's getting it done a little bit. But his defense is just, yeah, it's really good. I like that pick. So my last pick here, and I'm gonna go big man because I need another backup forward, and probably a guy that's like probably not thought of a ton anymore. Because this was a guy that definitely didn't have a great NBA career, but that's Jared Sullinger. Ohio State. He was so good at Ohio State, where he was Player of the Year, candidate like for a couple seasons. He was freshman and sophomore year, and it was like him and Aaron Kraft. I remember that they led Ohio State to the Final Four that year before that was his sophomore year. But it was just kind of like a double machine at Ohio State, and was a consensus All-American both his seasons, sophomore and freshman year. So, yeah, Jared Sullinger. I mean, another guy on this list that was really good in college and got to the NBA and just couldn't figure it all out yet.
Yeah, he was pretty good in the Celtics.
Yeah, he's got like a role. But I don't even know what is he still in the Celtics? I'm gonna look
No,
that
I
up.
don't think he's still in the league. Um, but yeah, Ohio State had a lot of good players this decade, like a lot of really good players. Um,
He's on the Shenzhen Aviators.
there you go. Still balling. I mean, still
Yeah,
probably making really good money. I mean, even these guys playing overseas, it's like they live in life.
yeah,
Get to play basketball. So, um, yeah, Jared Solinger was very, very impactful this decade.
yeah.
And Aaron Kraft, I can't believe you mentioned him. He's classic, um, scrappy point guard for
Right.
every college basketball season has the scrappy white point guard.
Exactly. Yeah, that was him for sure.
Remember that. All right, for my final pick to round out the squad, could go in a number of different directions, but I want to add just an all-around good player, and that's Gordon Hayward. Um, he was the Horizon Player of the Year when they went to the national title game against Duke. Um, yeah, just like a very good college player. Um, again, you think about like a culture builder like Malcolm Brogdon. That was Gordon Hayward
Yeah.
for Butler, and
He
really
helped
helped
put
launch
Butler
him
on the
in,
map.
helped put them on the map, helped get Brad Stevens into the NBA.
Yeah.
And Butler's been a really good program ever since that 20. I think it was 2010. I think it was.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
so really early on in this decade. Um, but yeah, I think he's deserving of making that final spot on the squad.
Yeah. I remember he almost had the shot of like the century if that went in. They were playing Duke in that title game, and he had like a half court shot that would have won it, but it hit off the backboard and the rim, and bounced out. But if that went in, it would have been like the ultimate. That would have been like the shot of like college basketball. I think. I mean, because like the Butler beating Duke too would have been crazy.
Yeah, I think it's the Butler beating Duke, and
Yeah.
then you
The
know,
fact that it's like a half court heave, like last
like
second.
until the 2016 national title game, that if he had made that, that would have been the best shot. But then he did make it, so left no doubt that um, it was going to be the 2016 Chris Jenkins walk-off shot.
Jenkins for three.
Jenkins for the championship.
No, that was it. All right. Well, that wraps it up the draft. Let's go through our teams real quick and just kind of give how you envision the rotations and all that going out. So for me, I got my two guards will be Kemba Walker and Jimmer Fredette, and then I'm gonna have Greg McDermott at the 3, and then two forwards. Zion definitely playing like the power forward role, and then Jaleel Okafor at the 5, which I think will help Zion a lot, just being playing that 4 spot and having smaller defenders on him the whole time, and letting Jaleel man the 5. And then off the bench, we got Trey Burke as the point guard / shooting guard. Also Trey Young as like definitely the 6th man scorer off the bench. And then Jared Solinger, another, stretch 4, 5 type player, being my backup forward. So that's what I got. And I think, when I'm just looking at this, leading scorer on this team will not be Jimmer, as you might expect. It's going to be Zion. For
Yeah, I think
sure.
Zion's going to get the ball a lot.
He's gonna average like 10 dunks a game. So
Yeah, he's pretty much impossible to stop. So um, it's a very formidable squad. I think mine backcourt's going to start with Jalen and Buddy. Jalen at the 1, Buddy at the 2. Um, and then I like Evan Turner staying in at the 3. And then I'm actually going to swap Frank the Tank and Draymond in to give me a little more
wow.
defensive flexibility. Let Anthony Davis, um, he's going to be my 5 as well. But, we're going to have interchangeable wing defenders out there. and some tough-nosed defensive guys. Then Frank the Tank can give me some pop and defense off the bench, and then Malcolm Brogdon and Gordon Hayward will just kind of slot in,
I like that.
for the wing. So I've got like a 1, 3, and a 5 off the bench. Kind of keep it balanced like that.
I feel like overall you have a lot more defense than me. Like I think I like my guard, like you, like Brogdon compared to Trae Young. I think I have a lot more just scoring, and I sacrifice the defense. So it'll be interesting to see
That would
how that
actually be
would
really
work.
fun. Please comment below if you think my team will win.
Yeah,
Defense wins championships. Offense wins some games. So, but just let us know who you think has a squad that's going to win. I would actually love to like simulate something out and just see what would happen. But yeah, you definitely have the scoring over me.
yeah, it would be interesting simulation. See who would win like a 7-game series or something. Interesting that you moved Draymond to the starting lineup. I like that move. All right.
I just feel
Well,
like Draymond's got to be out there and to like get everyone fired up and curse at people and like,
yeah,
just like
yeah,
get the players amped.
I like that. Um, so yeah, let us know which team you guys like. What other drafts you want us to do? I mean, we're gonna keep doing this while we're all quarantined here. Yeah, it's not Nick, by the way. It's not Nick's team. Only, by the way, only one Villanova player selected. Interesting, and no Maryland
Yeah.
players, which I'm not surprised about.
Well, that's not surprising.
But a couple Maryland references.
A couple Maryland references. I think the only other guy that would have made sense, Josh Hart was in the mix.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say he would be the only other one that I mean, honestly, or Arch. I mean, Arch is a pretty good college basketball player.
He was like a better version of Aaron Kraft, in my opinion.
Yes, he was a better offensive player than Aaron Kraft,
Yeah.
and like still brought that same gritty,
Very scrappy. Yeah.
scrappiness. But like he was the guy taking all the final shots on Villanova. Like he was their clutch guy.